everybody, welcome back to Midas Letter RAW. This is Wednesday, February 21?
Hump Day.
Hump Day.
February 20th.
20th.
Yes.
I'm ahead of my time once again.
Yep.
Anyways, Fraser, we have a really big show lined up today. You know, we're going to start with news nurse Ricky Gerwich as usual. But then we are going to hear from none other than the man himself, Raj Grover, CEO and founder of HITI Inc., probably the world's largest manufacturer and distributor of cannabis paraphernalia. They are the people behind the Midas Letter store merchandise. They have merchandise by Snoop Dogg. We're going to show some of that a little later when Raj joins us. At 3:30, Kiril Mugerman is here. He's the CEO of Kintavar Exploration. And then at 3:45, Matt Bottomley will be here. He is the cannabis analyst at Canaccord Genuity. 4:05, we're going to show you our FluroTech CompleteTest feature, where we actually have launched our ability to test THC and CBD in a laboratory setting using some of the most sophisticated equipment known to mankind today. And then at 4:10, Trevor MacMillan will follow up with an interview from FluroTech. Now, I wanted to just go over, I did a couple of rough calculations, back of napkin-esque on the FluroTech. Remember we were talking about the FluroTech revenue picture for 2019 yesterday?
And we were off by a zero.
Well, we were off by a lot more than that, I'll have you know. And so I just want to have another stab at it.
Let's take another stab there.
Take another stab. Now, my first mistake was when Mr. Carey, who was on the show yesterday, said that we were going to sell 70 machines today. Well, that's 70 machines he's got now ready to go in Western Canada, but they're actually probably going to get more to closer like 270 based on, you know, some back of the napkin calculations. Here's the other thing that we forgot to mention. That each of these machines generates a total of $20,000 a year.
A year?
240, 2,000, yeah, a year, an entire year. So if we do and then of course they have rental units, they have the ProLab unit. So let's just say, rough calculation, they do a total of 108 basic units, 108 ProLab units, and 54 rental units. That's a total of 270. Well, the sales total is going to be somewhere just over $6 million is my estimate. But then the consumables. Remember, this is like the razor blade model, the printer model. They've got consumables, and that's where it's at. They could probably give the machine away, and they do fine just selling consumables.
Yeah, because you got to put your get your sample here. You click over there. You get the little it's like the Trivago guy.
Exactly. That loser. Anyway, so, you know, the bottom line is I think that the revenue in 2018 is going to come in more around $10 million.
That's 10 times more than the estimate yesterday.
That's right.
Yeah.
I know.
Wow.
I know. Are we ever dumb?
Well.
But at least now we're smart. So, but that's just a little correction. Anyways, what is going on today? There is lots going on today. I wanted to, again, in the context of, let's see, where were we here? Boy, oh boy, am I confused or what? All right.
Ricky.
Here's news nurse Ricky Gerwich.
Thanks, James, and here are the headlines moving markets today. Aphria Inc. announced that its board of directors unanimously approved the early termination and liquidation of a promissory note option and other agreements related to the company's divestment of all interests in Liberty Health Sciences. As detailed on September 6, 2018, the company entered into a share purchase agreement with a group of buyers, completing the sale of the shares making up 100% of its outstanding interest in Liberty in exchange for a 5-year promissory note due September 6, 2023, bearing interest at 12% per annum and in the amount of over $59 million. Aphria retained an irrevocable option to repurchase its shares in Liberty from the buyers for a period of up to 5 years, subject to the satisfaction of certain conditions. Wayland Group has secured $20 million in funding for their Ontario facility expansion. The company has entered into an agreement to obtain the additional funds to support the expansion of the company's global footprint and fund development of its flagship Langton facility. This agreement is with certain investment funds managed by Alpha Blue Oceans Inc., a money manager based in London. Alpha Blue has agreed to subscribe for up to $20 million aggregate principal amount of senior unsecured convertible debentures across up to 5 facilities. Origin House announced that it has completed the previously announced acquisition of 180 Smoke and its affiliates. Zanabis Global Inc. will formally enter the Alberta recreational cannabis market, supplying retailers throughout the province through a supply agreement it has entered into with the Alberta Gaming, Liquor and Cannabis Commission. Zanabis will supply 7 strains of its premium adult-use products beginning Q1 2019. Alberta represents the 8th province or territory that Zanabis will supply. Aurora Cannabis has announced that Michael Singer, previously chairman of the board, has been appointed executive chairman of the board of directors. It's also announced that independent director Ronald Funk has been named lead independent director. Diane Zhang has voluntarily resigned her position as director of Aurora. Tilray Inc. has entered into a definitive agreement to acquire all of the issued and outstanding securities of FHF Holdings Limited from Compass Group Diversified Holdings LLC and other shareholders of Manitoba Harvest. Under the terms of the agreement, Tilray will acquire Manitoba Harvest on a cash and debt-free basis for an aggregate purchase price, including cash and Class II common stock in the capital of Tilray, of up to 419 million Canadian dollars pending the achievement of certain milestones. CanTrust Holdings Inc. announced that it has satisfied all of the regulatory requirements to list its common shares on the New York Stock Exchange. Trading of the company's common shares on the NYSE will begin on Monday, February 25, 2019, under the ticker symbol CTST. The company's common shares will continue to be listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol TRST. And CanTrust's new CFO, Greg Guyatt, will be a guest on Midas Letter this Friday. Ascend Wellness Holdings has secured $37 million in a bridge round of preferred equity and $18 million in a senior secured cultivation note. The $55 million in raised funds will be used to build out market-leading operations in Massachusetts, as well as the continued expansion in limited licensed cannabis markets. The company is also entering Ohio through an agreement to purchase their Tier 2 cultivation license. Canada House Wellness Group has announced a major restructuring and future branding of its business. The company is aligning its business under 3 verticals: Canada House Clinics, Canada House Grow, and its new retail arm, Canada House Retail. Emerald Health Therapeutics announced the launch of Verdilité Sciences Inc., a wholly owned Quebec-based production subsidiary licensed by Health Canada. Formerly known as Agrobiotech, Verdilité currently produces dried cannabis for medical and adult use purposes. And Dianthus Capital Holdings Inc. has opened its 2nd New York dispensary located in the Dutchess County town of Wappinger Falls. The dispensary will operate as Sativa Hudson Valley under Dianthus's Sativa New York dispensary brand. Weekend Unlimited has completed the arm's-length acquisition of R&D Pharma's Jamaican interests. The company issued 80 million shares at a deemed price of 25 cents, as well as making available 25 million warrants to the shareholders of R&D Pharma. Each warrant entitles the holder to acquire an additional share for 35 cents for a period of 2 years. And that's your news for today.
Boy, oh boy, that's some badass news right there.
Yeah. Aphria and Liberty Health Science have
Ooh, I know. What's going on there, Fraser? It looks like a little bit of a divorce.
Yeah, but it could be good for both companies in the long run because Aphria is concerned with their image, and if you look at what's Vic's gone now, their relationship with Liberty Health, among other things, and George, has always talked about growing the company, and now it seems like
he's free to do so.
Yeah, they're their own company, and maybe they're, as Ben wrote on the website, they could be a takeout candidate now because there's no 40% looming interest that Aphria could have had like that. So.
Who did Aphria or sell its interest to?
They're folks that
Saruya family.
That's one of them.
Saruyas.
Yeah.
Those Saruyas are at it. So, I mean, now we're free to. We basically are free to speculate, but a 40% holding in the hands of the Saruya family, is that not equivalent to a 40% holding in Aphria's hands, even though it's not the company that's holding the shares? I mean,
well, I thought he was, that family is 10% or something like that. So it's not so...
10%, yeah, and there's a little bit of cross ownership, isn't there, in Liberty from that, what was the company called that was dragged through the mud there?
Honestly, I can't remember anymore.
Anyways, optically, they are certainly doing a great effort to distance themselves from the Liberty Health group.
Yeah.
Versus, but that's fine.
Yeah. So, and I actually wanted to bring something else up to the viewers. We do our site tours from Midas Letter Films, and we go there and
we hit the pavement.
Yeah, and
we kick the tires.
Yeah. So I thought I'd show you guys this. If you haven't seen the Liberty Health video, you should check it out. Listen to George here, though.
The online tool, it allows you to click.
Get it out, and I got on. It says add to your cart, which I did. And then it said to just click it. So the order actually went through.
Right.
But then as you read it, it says, well, now so-and-so has to reach out and talk. I'm like, what are you reaching out to talk to me about? Like what?
Right.
I've been doing this.
Man, you're like all around me. My brother-in-law's Armenian, but yeah, I have a big Italian family, so.
You look very Italian.
Listen, I'll take care of it.
Okay.
All right. Did they get everything they needed? Yeah? They got everything they needed? Yes, sir. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm George.
Oh, it's nice to meet you, George. Helen.
Nice to meet you. How are you, sir?
Hey, good. I'm Steve.
Steve, nice to meet you.
We're just hoping your product will give him some relief for his back pain.
Yeah, what did they, if you don't mind me asking, what did they propose?
Well, we ask for the sativa to keep him awake during the day.
Okay.
By the time he takes enough opioids to stop the back pain.
An oral solution?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the cigarette.
Try to maybe cut some of that off. Some of your oral solutions only because some of your opiates only because
that's the goal.
Yeah, that'll really hurt some of your body there.
Yeah.
That's the goal, to get completely off them. That's why we're here.
How was the staff?
Wonderful.
Very good.
Very
Good.
nice.
Very good.
nice.
Everybody was real nice, both sides.
Great.
I don't know if are you that side too? You really
Great.
do.
It's really nice to meet you guys.
Great.
Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
Hopefully it helps you, and of course, please reach out to our staff.
Okay.
Okay.
will.
Thank you.
Thank
Pleasure.
you.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. So that's George. And
George is a man of the people.
Well, that's the thing. It was actually sort of annoying, but just because we're trying to shoot the video for Liberty Health. But at the same time, I really liked it because when you're behind the scenes like that, you can really see a CEO's true colors because they don't know when you're rolling and not. And we were just waiting for him. And he was dealing with these people, giving them business cards saying, you call me, doesn't matter when. He didn't even tell them he was a CEO a lot of the time.
Really?
Yeah, so I was just, after watching him in action, I got a lot of respect for George. I think he's a great leader. He really cares. And, so I was really happy about that. And I was a bit, it's a bit unfortunate that you can't really show that in our site tours because it's not really relevant in that context, but I still just wanted to give you guys a peek of what kind of a guy he is, and I really appreciated that. So
Yeah, awesome. Well, I love Liberty Health, and I certainly love George because he's just an awesome individual, and I think that Liberty Health is going to be one of the winners down there.
yeah, you could argue they're undervalued right now. I think they're up to 11 dispensaries. They're in 3 states now. Their company goal is to have 30 dispensaries by the end of the 2019. So they could be a juggernaut. You never know.
Well, that's true. Let's hope they do it. So coming up right now, we're going to have the CEO of HITI, Raj Grover, is going to join us.
High Tide is an Alberta-based cannabis corporation focused on the manufacturing and wholesale distribution of smoking accessories and cannabis lifestyle products. High Tide is a vertically integrated company with portfolio subsidiaries including RGR Canada Inc., Kush West Distribution Inc., Smokers Corner Limited, GrassCity.com, Canna Cabana Inc., and the majority of Kush Bar Inc. High Tide Incorporated trades on the CSE under the ticker symbol HITI.
Joining me now is Raj Grover. He's the CEO of High Tide Inc. Raj, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's so great to finally have you here.
I have to get you a little present for hosting me.
For me?
All for you, my
Little
friend.
old me.
All for you. And that's a pre-launch piece as well. So this is limited edition. It's not out yet. So we're launching that on February 28th at a convention in Vegas.
What have we got here?
Well, you've got an all-in-one piece, signed by Snoop, of course.
Yeah.
So, you can facilitate this for herbs. And when dabs are legal in Canada, then you've got it all. Until then, you got to save your dab tool there, but everything else works.
So this is my dab deck.
That's right.
And
That's
but
your
what
bucket.
about this one?
That's a carb cap to control the airflow of your dab.
Wow.
This one's your herb bowl, which is interchangeable. And
this
that's your
is
dab tool.
beautiful glass.
Yes, this is designed by ourselves and Snoop in California and manufactured overseas in one of our facilities.
Well, I'm going to get high as fuck tonight just trying it on out.
Hey.
Look at that. Thank
back
you,
to
brother.
that.
That's awesome. Leave
You got
that
it.
right there.
You got
Raj,
it.
for those who don't know, what does High Tide do?
So, High Tide is 10 years in business. We're celebrating our 10th year. So High Tide started in 2009 with a single store operation called Smoker's Corner. And today we're made of 6 different operating entities. So we've got, to simplify it, we've got 2 operating entities in the wholesale distribution division, which is manufacturing, wholesale, and distribution. So we sell, water pipes, hand pipes, Sherlocks, grinders, vaporizers, you name it. The difference between us and any other regular distributor in the cannabis industry is we manufacture 75% of our catalog, just like that piece over there. So, we have seed to sale margins when it comes to accessories. So that's the wholesale division. What we're very proud of in our wholesale division is we've also cornered the paraphernalia licensing market. So we've got licenses such as Snoop, Trailer Park Boys, Paramount Pictures, Lionsgate Studios, Guns N' Roses, Sublime, to name a few.
Wow.
And counting every day.
And Midas Letter.
Of course. Happy to do that deal with you.
Yeah, so we're going to start selling a lot of this merchandise as branded Midas Letter in due course here.
I'm very excited about that because that's where our 10 years of expertise comes into play.
Right.
And I want to talk a little bit about our retail play, which is Canacabana, which is one of our most ambitious, cannabis retail store rollout. So we started with accessory shops. We have 14 accessory shops, running in the country. But we also have maximum permits achieved in Alberta. So we're not behind any of our competitors that have maximum permits, which are either publicly traded or private companies. We've already achieved that. But on top of that, including, a couple of LOIs in Saskatchewan, couple of LOIs in Ontario. We signed 2 deals with the lottery winners. But what makes us different is, we're not trying to be the Apple store. We're not trying to be a record store. What we really are is the one-stop shop of cannabis. We know our customer for the last 10 years. It's the same customer. We have the age, the demographic, the average income, what they like, what they buy. We know the accessories that sell. So, the differentiation between a Canacabana outlet and any of our other competitors really is that it's a one-stop shop for our customers. They come in, we're not sending them to a smoke shop or a head shop after to buy stuff. We're all-in-one solution, and we can provide them the variety, and even our competitors are buying our products.
Wow, so do you guys sell cannabis?
Of course. So we have 4 Canacabana locations that are selling cannabis in Alberta. We have 8 opened in total. We have 26 more that are in various stages of construction. The moratorium in Alberta, but that's not affected us from opening them up as cannabis accessory shops, educate the customers, sell accessories, because that's what we've been doing for 10 years. And then we still have 4 stores open for cannabis. But every day, every month, the supply is getting better, so we have more and more coming online. But we're ready to rock and roll with maximum locations pretty much everywhere in the country.
Yeah, wow. So do celebrities come to you and say, hey, we want to license our stuff for paraphernalia to you?
So, I take a lot of pride in this because we were the first guys to go to Paramount Pictures and convince them to give us a studio license. Studios are billion-dollar enterprises. They don't deal in the marijuana world. But they've seen our level of packaging, our quality, what we do. We had a deal with Snoop, and that kind of opened up the doors from there. And because we were manufacturers of pretty much everything we sell, or 75% of what we sell, it was an easy connection there. Now we're with Lionsgate Studios. We have some really interesting licenses coming, so stay tuned.
American Psycho water pipes. Ooh. Raj, you've been the recipient of pretty significant investment from one of our favorite companies, Aurora. They put $10 million in on February 13th, and that's a coup no matter how you cut it. What attracted Aurora to High Tide?
So, this is another moment where High Tide is extremely proud to be partners with Aurora. Aurora's kind of kept an eye on us for the last couple of years when they were looking at accessories, not just investing $10 million in high tide, they've also given us our largest PO to date. And we're not only manufacturing Aurora branded accessories, but we're also distributing it through our platforms and our 3,000 stores worldwide, so the Aurora name gets out. Terry's kept a close eye on our accessories business, and it's just taken off from there.
3,000 stores worldwide?
That's right. Our accessories are sold in 3,000 stores worldwide in 20 plus countries.
Wow. That's incredible. So can I ask you, what does the revenue picture look like in 2019?
So when we were a private company, last year, 2018, our revenue was $10 million. Now that we're public, we're expected, if we don't open a single location of cannabis anymore, which is highly unlikely because I said we did 2 LOIs in Saskatchewan, 2 in Ontario. We've got some in the line in Alberta. We'll do about 25 million plus. And if any of these stores come online, we're talking about north of $50 million.
Wow. Okay, so what kind of net income are we talking here?
So, our gross margins are absolutely fabulous because of accessories. But again, cannabis
because
retail...
you manufacture 75%
that's right.
of your stock.
So, some of our competitors have put numbers out there on what their breakdown is between cannabis and cannabis accessories. We can proudly tell you that our average Canna Cabana store, out of the 4 locations that are open, we do 16% of all of our revenue in accessories. So once you have 50 to 100 stores open and you're vertically integrated completely, you're self-sustaining,
yes,
all of that margin's going to add up. So we're looking better just because we're not just cannabis, we're so much more than cannabis.
Wow, excellent. So tell me about some of these other accomplishments over the last little while. You're listed in Frankfurt. You've got deals with the lottery winners, some lottery winners in Ontario. So where is all this going? Where's 2019 going to do for High Tide and its shareholders?
So we've had quite a bit of a run since December 17th. We only went public like 7 weeks ago, and we did so good, Aurora wanted to put a press release about us. So, and they mentioned everything, going to Frankfurt, getting listed in Canada, doing 2 deals with lottery winners, 2 letter of intents in Saskatchewan.
Yep.
So 2020 and 2019 is going to continue building on these successes. We're very focused on cannabis retail outlets, so we'll have maximum allowed retail outlets anywhere in the private provinces, the ones that have allowed recreational cannabis.
Sure.
And then, of course, we're trading on CSE, so we're looking at some American opportunities as well.
Okay, great. I've got the chart up here on my NDI, if that's visible in the control room. And looks like you've essentially doubled in price since you started trading. When did you start trading exactly?
December 17th, and when we started trading. And we started trading in the worst month in the history, in decades. So we're just getting ourselves out of it, and we're just getting started because we were at 97 million pre-market cap before going public, and today we're 110. So there's a lot of room to run, and we're only just getting started.
How many shares outstanding?
197 million.
197 million. I can see what Aurora liked about you. No, that's great. Okay, so then in markets around the world, you've got stores selling cannabis accessories. Does that mean that you're perfectly positioned to be the first retail location to sell cannabis in those other jurisdictions once it goes legal there?
So, we have partners for the last 10 years. These are partners that we've had existing in our database, like 300 plus. And that's what differentiating us. I just had a trip to Amsterdam, and I could literally add $50 million to my top line with friends of mine that have been doing business for 10 years. So we're just only getting this, started. But of course, these relationships built over last 10 years are really helping us, build the future play for High Tide.
You bet. All right, Raj, we're going to leave it there. That's a great intro to the company. Looking forward to having you back. Thank you very much for my brand new brain-destructing water pipe.
You got it.
I will be using it with love, and we'll come back to you soon. Coming up, we're going to be looking at some more of the charts that are driving volume, or some of the volume performers today. We're going to start here with a quick look at the Cannabis Large Cap Index. And let's see, what's the symbol here? MLCCC at MLCC. Boy, that's a complicated one. All right. Okay, so there's the chart. Hi, Fraser, you're back. How did that happen? Miraculous. 1 minute, I'm sitting with Raj. The next minute, it's Fraser Toms. Good God, that's bloody astounding stuff. So What do you think? What do you think of my new toy? Look at this. Raj gave me this as a present. It's signed by Snoop Dogg. I think I've got the biggest collection of Snoop Dogg vapeware of anybody on the planet at this point.
That's pretty killer.
I've got the bubbler. I've got the bong. I've got the back here. I'm just going to have to be high all the time to be using this stuff. I hope that doesn't negatively impact my audience's impression of me. Anyways, a little segue into nothingness there. What's going to happen here? Let's see.
Do you want to look at some, at the beginning of the day, what are we looking at?
This is the large cap cannabis index, the Midas Letter large cap index, available at midasletter.com/cannabis. You will find 4 indexes there that track the performance of the Canadian cannabis sector, broken down into several groups. So right now, this is what we're looking at. This is the 1 month look. Let's go into intraday. So this is what today's trading action looked like among the large caps. So there's about 12 companies in there now. But we can now look at,
well, they're not in the large cap, but at the beginning of the day, I noticed Valens had a big jump.
Valens Grow?
Valens Grow Works.
What's their symbol again?
VGW.
VGW on the CSE.
Yeah.
Let's pull up that chart and have a look. Oh, yeah, so they got a big lift at the beginning of the day, and it's bumping along nicely here at 298 to 301.
Yeah.
Relative strength index is at about, it's 45. And
they've just been adding to their share price over the last, let's say, month.
Yeah, let's take a look at the 1 year look here. Wow, that tells the tale. Now, who was it that came out with research giving them a share price target?
Mackie.
What was the share price target they came out with?
They had to adjust it a couple of times.
Why?
Well, because the first one, I think they felt like it was just too high, like it seemed unbelievable. But
so they adjusted it downward?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But it's I think it's still around $4 or $5 or something like that.
Yeah. Interesting. Now, one of the other stocks that we noticed has been performing very well, and again, by way of disclosure, I have been and am a shareholder of Heritage Cannabis.
Yeah. Looking nice.
Yeah, they acquired a company that I'm a shareholder in called Canacure, which is now part of their portfolio. So they've got a whole bunch of different things going on. That's not the chart.
And I missed out on this. I personally don't have it, but I wish I did, because if you look at the last month, it's quite strong.
Yeah.
And also,
let's go to the 1 month look here.
Yeah, and we were talking off camera about Clint.
Yeah,
who's
Clint
a real
Sharples.
Sharp guy. Yeah, what was he involved with?
The sharp guy, Sharples.
Yeah.
Moduloc Fencing.
Yes,
that
that's
company
right.
that does fence rentals across the country.
That's right.
So he's got 5 different companies that in total have putting out over $100 million in revenue this year.
Yeah.
Last year, rather. And so that's just it. We've got a competent business operator at the helm of Heritage Cannabis.
Yeah, he's kind of unassuming, and but then you were just rattling off his resume and the amount of revenue that he's been able to generate with his enterprises.
Yeah,
and it's quite eyebrow lifting.
It is eyebrow lifting. You know, the interesting thing about Heritage is it has an absolute boatload of stock out. Like, we're talking 300 plus million shares when it's all said and done, and it's still managed to, well, at 34 cents, it's a double from 17, where it was trading back on January the 4th.
Yeah.
So anybody who bought into this is probably smiling pretty widely right now.
They like doubles.
Did like doubles?
They like doubles.
I love doubles. Let's do a double shot right now.
Yeah, put a chart up. So.
Yeah. Anyways, next up, Kiril Mugerman is the CEO of Kintavar Exploration.
Kintavar Exploration Inc. is a natural resources corporation focused on the exploration and development of precious metals and base metal properties. The company seeks to identify, investigate, evaluate, and acquire underexplored properties located in both traditional and non-traditional geographically favorable environments. Currently, the company's focus is on two sectors, the Abitibi Gold District and in the Grenville Geological Province of the Michi property. Kintavar Exploration is listed on the TSX Venture and trades under the ticker symbol KTR-X.
I'm joined now by Kiril Mugerman. He is the CEO of Kintavar Exploration. Welcome back, Kiril.
Hi, James. How's it going?
I'm doing really well. Thanks. How have you been?
Doing great. Nice to be back on the show.
Sure, you bet. Why don't you walk me through what has developed for Kintavar since we last talked?
Look, I think we've been here in September.
Okay.
And we were just finishing up our summer work.
Yes.
We published all those results. We were really happy from what we got during the summer. And then we moved into our fall program. And we drilled, we divided the summer over kind of the entire property, which is a huge sedimentary package.
Okay.
But then what we did in November and December, we went straight for the guts. We went for the main area, which is our Sherlock area. And right now we've been getting the results, we published the results for the eastern side, which was really good. It opened up the entire eastern side of the area. Hopefully we could add another like 200, 300 meters to the east.
Right.
And now we are waiting for the final drill results for the west, which will be adding hopefully another 200, 300 meters to the west. If that works, then from 500 meters where we are right now, long, we could probably be looking at a kilometer. If that's a kilometer, you're looking at a very large volume.
Right. Okay, so then what do you got to do in order to get to
next stage?
Yeah.
Look, I mean, I'd be honest, the street always is asking the same question.
Sure.
Well, your grade is not that great, right? So everybody is looking, it's like, okay, 100 to 250 meters of, let's say, 0.25.
Yes.
Well, I've got a porphyry here and there with the same grades at double the length.
Yep.
So why am I different from a porphyry? And in our opinion, in a porphyry, you have this one big massive disadvantage where it's one homogeneous rock, and you're going to have one big hole to mine the whole thing, right?
Yep.
What you have in the stratiform sedimentary package, usually it would be one underground operation. Now it got stacked like an accordion, and it's an open pit, but it's all still the same interbedded units.
Right.
So in our corporate presentation on slide, I believe it's on slide 11, you can see a very nice example. So we got here a picture of 4 core boxes. It's 16 meters. So usually if this was a porphyry, it would be 16 meters of roughly the same grade that the entire drill hole is. But really, you're looking at 16 meters of interbedded units of, let's say here, look, 3 meters of 0.16. Are you going to mine it? No. Then you got 3 meters of 0.7. Are you going to mine that? Yes. Then another 3 meters of 0.1. Are you going to mine it? Absolutely no. And then you go into 8 meters of 0.6, 0.7, 0.8. So the beauty is in the stratiform copper deposit, what we are looking at and what's been the most exciting thing for us. Today you have all those sorting technologies which are much more advanced than they were 10 or 15 years ago. So this is looking so good for one of those applications.
Okay, so when you say sorting technologies, you mean the ability to sort different types of ore according to mineral content?
Exactly. So what they do is in a mine, some of the operations that we visited and we looked at, what a sorting technology does, it basically is a unit sitting in between your main crusher and your grinder. So what it does, okay, it breaks it into a couple of inches rocks. So 2 inch by 2 inch, for example. And it says, okay, well, that's waste, and that's mineralized. And then that's it. Next thing you know, the waste goes to the waste pile.
Right.
In a gold mine, for example, if you have a shear zone, then yeah, you go, okay, I'm just mining this. This is my waste. This is my strip ratio. Here's the math, done. Well, here, I'm not going to do this simple math because it's going to get mined, but it's going to go through the sorter. So the mill is actually going to be smaller than in a porphyry that will have the exact same grade over the exact same size.
Okay.
So if, let's play with some numbers. If you've got a mill of 100, 125,000 tons per day.
Yes.
For a typical porphyry, you're looking at $1 billion, $2 billion, $3 billion capex. because your tailings facility is huge, your flotation plant is huge, and chances are in the porphyry, you're in Chile or in Peru somewhere, or in BC where some of the operations are not as easy.
Yes.
I'm 4 hours north of Montreal. Everything is flat, I don't have any issues with finding water, everything's there. So if suddenly you put a sorting facility and you're only feeding this material of 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 1% into the mill, what happens next? You're working actually with a small mill. So let's say 15 or 25,000 tons per day operation.
Right.
Is your capex going to be over $1 billion? No. You can look at so many other companies that have 15 to 25,000 tons per day operation. Do they have it? Look at their capex, and you'll be like, actually, at a capex, small capex like this, with simple mineralogy. So that's what we are doing right now. We are doing flotation work. We don't even have a resource, but we are doing flotation. Why? Because we want to demonstrate for the size that we have, if it's going to be 3, 4, 5 open pits, flotation taken care of, concentrate is going to be good, no problematic trace elements. If I can checkbox this, done.
Okay.
Then the beneficiation work is actually going to be what will drive the economics, because everybody will tell you, James, they have a low grade. And that's fine, I understand. The street is trained to look at high grade deposits.
Right, right.
But we have a unique situation. It's a huge sedimentary basin that if it was underground and it was only one unit, it will probably be like 10 meters. Like, look here, 8.5 meters at 0.66.
Sure.
That's probably what it would be underground.
How sensitive to the price of copper is your ability to proceed, finance, explore, and what does that do to how soon till you become a mine?
A bit tough to say because I didn't complete my engineering study, right?
Okay.
If I had that number, I'd say, okay, let's run it. Okay, if my copper price goes to 350, I'm economical, and if it goes to 250, I'm not. I don't have this magic number yet.
Okay.
All I know is 3 is that psychological barrier for the copper market.
0.3.
No, at $3 a pound.
Oh, $3 a pound, okay.
So at $3 a pound, copper projects are easier to finance.
Right.
At below $3, everybody's like,
Right.
It's almost like with gold, let's say $1,300. We've been waiting for $1,300 for how long? Suddenly we were like, oh my God, market is alive again.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, so tell me about what is going on in the copper market, because that's interesting to me as well. I mean, we've got this situation where grades are deteriorating at the world's largest primary suppliers. There's no new supply of any size coming on stream anytime soon.
Very little, yeah.
At what point do those converging lines cross and the price of copper spikes?
Some of the analysts that we talked to, they are thinking like, look, give it another 2 years, and you're just going to have such a huge deficit that it will drive the copper price. Will it actually go there? We don't know. Because you remember the famous zinc story. For the last 15 years, they were saying we're running out of zinc. But it took 15 years to actually start running out of zinc. So now zinc is, let's say, pretty bad. And the same thing for copper. Copper is starting to hit those territories. Every couple of years, we have deficit for a couple of years and then come back, deficit a couple of years. Because every time the copper increases a little bit, high grading, some mines add extra production, a few brownfield deposits are opening up. So it's rough, it's hard to say, but the general consensus is 2020, 2021, you're going to hit an inflection point where you just have no replacement copper of significant capacity, and demand is just skyrocketing due to all the electrification of electric vehicles, and demand for new construction, and it's just going to take over. So, because we don't really have replacement for copper.
No, there's nothing that replaces copper, economically at least.
Exactly.
Interesting. So, do you think that now is a good time to be accumulating copper explorers like Kintavar?
If you see the size potential.
Right.
If the company was there during the bear market and they couldn't do anything, and they already signed HJV where they sold half of the project for like $10-15 million in exploration, I think it's tough. So again, let's say we can't control the situations, and bear markets were tough for everybody for the last, I don't know, it's been 7 years now, 5?
Sure. Yes.
But if you see the size potential, in my opinion, the size is the most important thing right now, because how many majors will get involved for a project with 5-10 year mine life?
Right.
In gold, we do have that mid-size copper, gold producer, but in copper, it's not that prevalent. I mean, look, Nefson was kind of getting outside of the mid-size, started going big, well, got bought out.
Okay, interesting. So we're looking at the map here of Quebec, and as you say, your project is just 4 hours north of Montreal.
Yep.
Which slide were you referring to earlier? It took me a minute to get this up, so we're a little bit behind.
On the sorting, that was slide 11.
Slide 11. Let's go there right away.
That one.
Okay, so now we've got something to look at.
So you see, those are the grades that I was talking about.
So you've got 0.16% copper here over 3.2 meters. That's
waste.
Generally nothing that gets anybody excited. Waste.
But then you go into 8 meters of 0.66.
Right.
Boom.
Now you're talking.
20 years ago, you couldn't process that.
Right.
But now there are so many more different things that are available.
Yes.
And we started doing a lot of that work already. And it's a work in progress. Send the materials and get results, and the more material, get results. And by the time it's all going to be working, we'll be able to say, great, that's how it works. And my 200 meters are actually going to be fed into the mill, hopefully at grade X.
Yes.
The idea is feed the mill with the highest grade possible. But it's not by high grading, it's by sorting, because high grading kills mines.
Okay. How does high grading kill mines? Just
you're really picking my analyst side, huh? If you high grade a deposit in simple terms, you basically went after the best areas, and you either put in the waste pile some other material which usually you'd be processing.
Right.
But now it's already in the waste, and you're not going to start after that going after the low grade, because the low grade might actually be too low. So if it was mixed with the high grade, it was a medium grade that you could process, but now you can't. So
I see what you mean.
Or underground, you went after a high grade area and you shut off an area that could have been developed under a normal condition, but now you're like, can I go there? No, you can't, because of the pillar and the stability and all that.
Right. Okay, well, interesting. So now you're going to be presenting at the PDAC event in Toronto next week?
Yeah, we'll be at PDAC. We have Core Shack for 2 days, Sunday and Monday.
Yeah.
We got the actual main booth as well, so we'll have core boxes everywhere so people can come and see this whole difference between 0.7 and 0.1.
Right.
And why are you excited about 1% copper? Like, you literally can see in some of my core boxes, 1%, 0.1,
right.
1%, 0.1.
Okay, cool. All right, well, that's awesome. Let's leave it there, Kiril. We'll come back to you very soon again. Best of luck for the PDAC event. Coming up, we're going to take a look at some of the biggest cannabis news, some of the big news in cannabis we can expect over the next few weeks. Kiril, we'll see you soon.
Thank you very much, James.
Okay. Oh, okay. Upcoming events in MedMen is going to be releasing their financials for Q2 on February 27th. They will have a conference call for investors at 5 p.m. on the 27th of October. That's just a week away from today. Canopy Rivers will announce their Q3 financials on the 27th of February. Acreage Holdings is going to announce their financials for Q4 on March the 12th. Tilray is going to publish Q4 financials on March 18th. And of course, they're going to have the obligatory conference call as well. Joining me now is Matt Bottomley. He is the analyst with Canaccord Genuity in the cannabis space. Matt, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back, James.
You bet. Matt, what are you looking at these days? What are you liking? What are you hating?
Well, it's there's a lot going on, obviously. And, looking at the space, Q4 last time we talked, maybe a little after that, there's a lot of the multi-state operators coming to market, and there's been a few earnings since then. I saw in the preamble there we have Acreage that's going to be reporting. I think MedMen as well towards the end of this month. So obviously keeping an eye on that. Last week was very busy though. We had the two leaders in the Canadian space, being Canopy and Aurora, report their first full quarters of recreational contribution. So that's something I've been digesting and taking a lot of investor calls on, just trying to glean if it's within expectation, given all the different variables in there. And I think the key takeaways I think gleaned from the information is the pricing is a lot higher than I thought it would be. Now, I wouldn't get too excited on that, because if you look at all the expansion plans in the industry, there's a potential glut of actually biomass or cannabis flower that's going to be coming online throughout 2019 and into 2020. So I expect the wholesale pricing of the flower to come down. But certainly in the first 3 months here, the Canopies and Auroras out of the gate got much higher pricing. We're still waiting now on the profitability to finally make an appearance into the sector, which I do think is some quarters away.
Yeah, on that issue of oversupply and when it's going to happen, it's not really a question of if, it's just a matter of when. There's one of the things that I noticed. So cannabis became legal on October 17th, people couldn't really buy clones or seeds to grow at home. So there hasn't really been that uptake in the opportunity to grow at home. Now, me being me, I ordered a top-of-the-line 4-pod hydroponic system, which I just transplanted seedlings that I started back in January into on the weekend. And, you know, having 4 plants growing in your house, you sort of look at this and think, okay, if I get 400 grams a plant, you know, I've got basically a lifetime supply of cannabis for somebody like me. I don't smoke it that much. So I'm just curious, have you taken that into consideration in your modeling of future revenues, that there might be a big sort of glut of demand that is not present in the marketplace because people are taking advantage of the ability to grow their own?
I think it's included in my model as much as someone that covers Constellation Brands probably considers homebrew in their model. So I would say it's very low, but in joking aside, not at all. I do think that it is going to, you know, cut into the market at some immaterial amount. Right now, when you look at particularly what's going on in the U.S. and you look at what a mature market looks like, if you're a casual user, someone that might smoke on the weekends or vape or use an edible, it's not a very expensive habit relative to alcohol. I mean, you can buy a gram of marijuana. If you're not a heavy user, that could, you know, be enough for you and your friends for the weekend. You could buy for $7 or $8.
Right.
So it's not something that I think is going to make people have to go and you know, hopefully it's a labor of love on your part, but at the end of the day, it is something that I think people are going to do, but I think it's more of a hobby as to anything. I don't think it's going to be with respect to trying to get cheaper marijuana. Certainly you're not going to get high potency products, you're not going to get all the different cannabinoid profiles you're going to get, you're not really going to make home edibles, although I suppose you could, which would be a whole other step. So I'm not really worried about it. I don't really think much about it. I think it's interesting, but I don't think it really comes into play when you're looking at the macro picture.
Sure. Okay, and what is your takeaway on the reported earnings of Aurora and Canopy in that last segment?
Yeah, so I think there's sort of three keys that I would look at. So one we talked about was pricing. The second one would be the actual market share. So it was very surprising. The Government of Canada actually has released monthly numbers for the first 3 months of Canadian rec sales, both between dried bud and oil products. And when you take the quantities that were sold, I believe it was about 30,000 kilograms if you include what was in inventory at year end, as well as 30,000 liters of oil. And if you try and back into what Canopy and Aurora reported for their sales for the quarter, it seems like those two companies combined had about a 50% combined market share, which is, I think, a bit of a red flag when you're looking at the industry as a whole, considering how many cannabis players there are. Now that's great for Canopy, great for Aurora. I think when you include Aphria and Tilray and maybe CanTrust, I mean, those companies will probably make up, at least to start, 80% of the market, which leaves a very small portion for the other 20 or 30. And you know better than anyone out there how many cannabis names are actually out there, certainly listed on all the different exchanges. So I think it's a bit of a red flag for investors that might have investments in a breadth of 20 or 30 of these Canadian LPs. Because I think it's becoming apparent that it's only going to take a handful of these guys to get the market over the goal line, and that's who the Constellations and Altrias and everyone are going to invest in. And I think that having those two companies come out so strongly is an indicator of that. So yeah, all in all, I thought it was pretty impressive earnings. The third point being profitability. So we had negative EBITDA in the amounts of about negative 75 for Canopy and negative 40 or so for Aurora. So still a long ways away. Canopy obviously has $4 billion plus sitting on its balance sheets with warrants to bring in another $4 billion. So I don't think they're too worried about the burn. But at some point, investors are going to want to see an inflection into positive EBITDA so that a reasonable assumption could be made as to what EBITDA multiple should be applied. Right now, as you know, with the valuations, it's very hard to decipher how investors look at it.
Yeah, you bet. So in terms of the volume of sales in the first full quarter of legal cannabis in Canada recreationally, do you think that's a number that's going to grow over time, or do you think that's pretty much the volume we can expect to see in terms of consumption by Canadians going forward?
Yeah, so I don't. Obviously, it's going to be higher. I don't have the crystal ball as to what the number would be, but my back of the envelope calculation that I think I put in a note the other day is that I think the ultimate demand is about 10 times higher than what was sold. Now, again, it's a relatively low base. I think there was probably between recreational medical about 250 to 300 million of revenue sold in the quarter, which is great for a start. But really, you have to look at where the bottlenecks are in this space, and there's a little bit when it comes to what the producers are producing. But the biggest biggest bottleneck by far in the state has nothing to do with the producers. It's the government and retail infrastructure and being able to put cannabis in the hands of consumers. So right now it's predominantly an online model, even in states or provinces rather that have private sector that has been working on this for some time. There's not many stores opened. I took a glance into the one of them in Vancouver a couple weeks ago, and it's basically empty compared to all the other illegal ones running around, and that's because the second point being you don't have product breadth, so you don't have infrastructure to get these into the hands of the consumers, and then you're not providing what a recreational user is going to demand. So if you go to California or some of these other states, we don't have edibles in Canada, we don't have vape pens, we don't have all these product classifications that really lift the market up. So your incremental user, someone that doesn't smoke cannabis, someone that doesn't think about cannabis, if you ask them today, are you a cannabis user, they're not going to have the ability to even potentially participate into this market until it looks a little more CPG friendly. It's in stores, it's beside shoppers or in shoppers, it's beside where they go grocery shopping. You're not going to really get it from, in my view, overpriced cannabis just on an online platform.
Sure. Do you think that the government of Canada is going to get that point, that they're kind of keeping the market down by being so restrictive and so conservative with the rules? I mean, even alcohol manufacturers have a lot more liberal policy towards them in terms of how they can advertise, what kind of events they can sponsor. Do you think it's just a matter of time till the government of Canada eases up and says, okay, this isn't going to turn into the reefer madness show we thought it was, we can pull back on some of these rules and let these companies make a little more money?
I'm certain they're aware of it. I don't think there's a lot of incentive to walk before, or to run before you can walk, rather. We'd all like to see that. Certainly the LPs would like to see it, but coming into an election year, the last thing you want is having every color gummy bear and gummy worm out in the market, and then some miner gets their hands on it and you have a PR nightmare. So that's just one small factor, but I think the real reason why we are here today in terms of being a little behind the eight ball with the rollout is just a function of when you go back in time and it was all medical. And my understanding at least when I started looking at this market in early 2016, there might have been 30 people at Health Canada working in this cannabis group, and they've slowly been growing and growing and growing. So there just hasn't been the resources there in order to facilitate a fast growing market. Where I think there's been pretty big missteps that could have been avoided is on the retail rollout. I have no idea why. Obviously Ontario had a provincial election and the leadership changed, and okay, the model got pivoted, but out in Alberta, why is there, whatever the number is now, 10 stores, and BC 5 stores, 2 years after this was sort of known to be in the mix? So that's a little bit surprising. There's incentive for the government to roll this market out, given all the tax money that's at stake. But given that that's the government, I don't expect this to happen in the next couple of quarters.
Yeah. Do you think the private model is better than the government model in states, or in rather provinces, where it's more privatized like Alberta, as opposed to where it's more restrictive like Quebec?
Well, I think, if I could design it from the ground up, yeah, I think that, when you put the private sector into it, it'll probably be done a little more efficiently because, they need a return on their investment for putting it into the different retail locations. I personally don't hate the LCBO. I think it's a pretty run store, but that's, decades in the making. So in terms of rolling out this market, I think a private sector is probably a better model. But more so, I think you should be leveraging off of people in parallel industries like traditional retail, or even the LPs themselves, and helping to do that. With what Ontario did by putting this in a lottery where the criteria was you have to have a credit card and access to internet. I mean, it's a little silly. I mean, no disrespect to any of the 25 people that got it, but it doesn't make sense to me that that's how you would roll the market out. So that I don't really understand either.
So we've got a situation now where, let's say we have a mature cannabis market in terms of the large cap cannabis companies in Canada. We've still got a never-ending bouquet and sort of rain of small companies that are coming to market, and there's the range of business models is growing wider, but there's been a few real significant ones emerge, like the biosynthetics. I've now got 7 PowerPoints on my desk from 7 different biosynthetic companies. Obviously, biosynthesized cannabis is a threat to the large producers in some respects, because if it can be produced at a much lower cost of input, then obviously there's a risk there. Do you think, which of these sectors do you still, like at this point in halfway through Q1 of, or I guess, yeah, almost exactly halfway through Q1, at this point, which of these other sectors, like large caps, small caps coming to market, multi-state operators in the US, biosynthetics, we just had Raj Grover here from HITI, which specializes in equipment and paraphernalia. Which of these sectors do you get most excited about?
Well, there's a lot of them. So the one that I like the most, although it's not on the Canadian theme, is the multi-state operator. When you add up and I think we've talked about this before, the market capitalization in Canada is 100 billion or whatever it is this hour. If you cut that in half or by 60 or 70% and say this is how much I think the Canadian sector is overvalued, assuming you think that, that's still well higher than the macro market cap of all these multi-state operators, where I think the combined value is about 15 billion right now. So these are companies that have access to hundreds of millions of potential customers, are vertically integrated, where they're not dealing with the government at all for their retail stores, and there's less of them to digest. I mean, there's probably going to be an increasing profile, but there's sort of 6 or 7 that are really out of the gate as the leaders. So that's what I'm looking at. In the Canadian space, I think, the biosynthetics is obviously something that's interesting. I actually don't have the view that it would necessarily be a competitor with the large caps should it go that direction, because at the end of the day, at the end of the day, what's going to happen here is the market is going to transition to CPG. So whoever gets the leading market share right now in Canada, as the quarters turn into years, that's going to turn into a brand. There's going to be brand equity there. And then someone like Bruce Linton at Canopy, and there's been others as well, they're just looking for the lowest cost input or the most efficient cost input. So whether that's growing it yourself in year 1, to buying it wholesale in year 2, to having some lab concoct it for you in year 3, I think the runway is too long for those types of companies for them to actually come in and compete with them. So that's not one that I think is necessarily a bad investment opportunity, because I think there's a tremendous amount of IP and R&D that needs to go into this space, given how the historical illicit nature of it. But it's going to take some time. I don't see one of those companies dethroning one of the leaders in the LP space.
Mm-hmm. Matt Bottomley, great perspective as usual. We're going to have you back sooner rather than later again. Thanks for joining me today. Coming up next, the Midas Letter Index on. Here it comes, the Midas Letter Large Cap Index today. We're going to look at the 4 indexes. Fraser Toms is going to join me in just a second, and we're going to focus on the small caps a bit, because the action has been in the small caps today, has it not been, Fraser?
It absolutely has, and at 2:56 p.m. ISS started to rip. It went up 50 cents.
Really?
Which is almost 7%, or is 7%.
That is 7% at 2:56 p.m. You say. Let's pull up that chart and see what's going on here.
Yeah.
And did you find anything that might explain what's going on?
Yes, but not at the time frame that it happened. So they opened their second New York dispensary, and that press release was, I think, 9 hours ago.
Okay.
So, but randomly, it was trading sideways all day, and then boom, nice jump at the end. And also, this is coming around, I think it was just a couple days ago.
Oh, wow, look at that chart. Intraday.
Yes.
At 3 p.m., the stock just started to
look at the volume. Yeah, look at the volume.
Yeah.
And, so there's that new dispensary in New York, which is obviously a big deal.
Yeah.
And also, just a couple days ago, or a few trading days ago, I can't remember exactly, the MPX merger completed.
Yes.
So I actually had MPX, and then I saw Ianthus pop in my area.
Yeah.
And then you had a little bit of MPXI as well. But there hasn't been much action until an hour ago, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I don't know why, though.
So there was nothing that was released at 3 p.m. to justify it. Have you looked on CDAR at all?
I'm allergic to CDAR. I like cameras.
Okay. There you go.
I like Hadley, though. He's a real sharp CEO, I think.
Yeah, he's one of our most charismatic presenters for sure. Well, let's see what they put out in the press release. Today's the 20th. 7:39 this morning they put out a press release according to this, and the press release, we can't see it quite yet, is going to be all about what? Well, their second dispensary. Okay, so but that doesn't really tell us why it took off at 3 p.m.
Exactly.
We should almost call Hadley and say, Hadley, what WTF?
WTF. WTF, Hadley.
Yeah, what's going on, Hadley?
Yeah, we have some of our viewers are wondering, because they either had MPX or Ianthus, and they're saying their stuff's frozen. I don't know. If you have Ianthus shares, you have Ianthus shares. That's all there is to it. If you have MPX shares, they should already be converted in your account to Ianthus at this point, which you should be able to do whatever the hell you want to do with.
Sell, buy, sell.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's take a look at what our audience is interested in right now. We haven't been talking. Quinn Coleman says he's long Ian. So that's obviously a vote for the hold or buy or sell, buy and accumulate. Somebody has suggested that MedMen CR is the one they like. Oh, let's see. Raging Rick. HITI names Ianthus a best idea. Best long idea, Bloomberg reports. HITI names Ianthus a best idea. Is that what happened to make the stock pop?
Maybe. Look at the volume was just like...
Let's see what HITI is. Maybe that'll give us some insight into what the hell's going on.
What the hell's going on?
Window, come on, new window, come on.
It is that was a great merger though, because you had MPX, which I think was 5th in revenues overall. Ianthus was doing well. Their stock was always doing well, but Ianthus's business was doing well, but their stock was just sort of stagnant.
Yes.
And then so you combine the two, and it's a little bit of a powerhouse.
Powerhouse?
That multi-state operator that Matt Bottomley was talking about.
Yes, well, interesting. Okay, so this is, HITI appears to be a website that focuses on financial content. And don't see anything, so it must be a subscriber.
Yeah, this is
thing that, because there's no headline here indicating that Ianthus has become anybody's favorite stock. Anyways, that's good. That's fine. That's wonderful. That's groovy. I'm going to go to some. Let's going to look at some of the index performance today, and let's see. We'll go to midasletter.com/cannabis and pull up our indexes. Now, as we already pointed out, the large caps have basically spent the day, come on, load it up. Large caps are up 1.05% in the whole sector. All the indexes are up. If we look at my screen here, we've got the Midas Letter Small Cap Cannabis Composite Index. Spit it out, Wes. Up 2.52%. The venture index is up 2.3%. That's up on my
the venture.
The
TSX
up on my
venture?
India. There we go. Okay, so
India.
India. Just got him right. India. Okay, that's damn. I've hit full screen and it still shows the location bar. That's not really that interesting. Okay, so let's see who are the big performers in each of these sectors. On the CSE, we are looking at, come on. Okay, so the largest capped company on the CSE right now is Green Thumb Industries. Now, if we look by performance here, what's this Belgravia cow? It's a 3-center, so we just ignore that. Tilt Holdings.
Why? Why would you, 1 cent could change your life?
Well, yeah.
I've never heard of that company.
No, me either. So let's start the list there. Tilt Holdings, up 15% today to 334. That is interesting. Probably put out some good news, but we haven't heard anything. Let's take a quick look at their page. Oh, and it doesn't come up because it's all wrong. Actually, let's try something here. If I go like this, tilt, and then I actually put the right.
Are you familiar with Tilt?
Tilt? Well, I kind of.
Okay.
Nope, that didn't work either. Anyways, let's go back. I love it when
I'm sure they're very lovely people over at Tilt.
Just lovely. Sure. Fabulous people. Well, Tilt wasn't that a combination of 2 companies? Alternate Health Corp rose 11%. AHG, don't even know what they do. Never heard of them. New Age Brands, 6 cents, up 9%. Never heard of them. There's Ianthus, up 7.27%. 767.
Yeah.
That's quite the move.
You're just at the end of the day, and then
yeah.
This Canopy Growth Opportunity Corp, I keep seeing it and initially thinking it's Canopy.
Right.
But it's not. And
No.
I feel like they kind of played with the name to make it sound like Canopy Growth Corp.
Cannabis Growth, well, it's cannabis. I mean.
Cannabis Growth Corp. Opportunity Corp.
Okay, actually, I heard from a broker out west about that company. Let me just see.
In the Wild West?
Oh, they're going to be on the show next week. How about that? Is that Jamie Blundell who's coming on the show? Yes, Jamie Blundell is going to be here. So This company was first recommended to me by Mr. Jim Cumming, a broker of some stature out in Penticton land, and he drew it to my attention. But look at this, well, we can't look at the share price there, but if I go over to my quote stream, let's pull up a share. CGOC, correct? CGOC on the CSE. What do we got? What do you have for entertainment? That's...
What is that, a 1 day or a 5? What is that?
This is intraday.
Intraday.
Let's look at the 1 year. Whoa! Way down. Now it's got way up, but you could have bought this thing at 70 cents on Christmas Eve. No, 85 cents on Christmas Eve. Now trading above $2.20. That stock's got a bit of on fire. Now it's trading outside of the Bollinger Bands, and the relative strength index is showing above 71, suggesting that it's going to correct a little bit to the downside, but who knows? Who really knows?
Well, that's Ed's.
That's Ed's area of expertise. Wonder how old Ed's doing. We haven't even heard from him.
I don't know. Maybe he's. Where did he go?
I have no idea.
Oh yeah, he does just sort of disappear and come back, and he's like, I was in Peru or somewhere unexpected, and you're sort of like,
I know, he's saving it.
Adventures.
Well, let's see what stocks are sucking hind teeth today on the Midas Letter Cannabis Index. Prevceutical, that dog of a stock that was implicated in the... oh, look at Ventura Cannabis. Well, this is hilarious. Ventura Cannabis, Cannabis and Wellness lost a penny, but it's down almost 10%. Anyways, VCAN is a company that I own a ton of shares in. I have great expectations thanks to the new management that's come in there. So I look at this 10-cent entry level and I'm wondering whether I should be buying more. Cantab Therapeutics down 6.9% to 81 cents. We should probably get Richard Goldstein back on the show.
They've been on the program.
Yep, they've both been on the program. They're good guys. ICC International Cannabis Corp. Body and Mind, BAM.
Yeah.
Lost 6.8%. Anyways, lots going on there. Let's go see some of the other indexes. We looked at let's look at the large caps again and see who is the best and the worst of the large caps today.
The best of the best.
The best and the worst of the best. Let's not lose track of our menu.
Aphria's up the most there.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's see here if we order it by performance. Okay. The worst performer is TerraSyn Corp, down 2.86% to 850. Green Growth Brands. Green Growth Brands has kind of gone quiet, haven't they, since that Aphria thing went sideways?
Yeah.
Let's see who the best performer is. Aphria is the best performer.
Yeah.
Up 65 cents or 5% to $13.42, followed by Hexo, up 4.8%, 36 cents to $7.86, and then third place performer for the day is Organogram, up 3.41% to $7.89. Now Organogram's been on quite the tear for quite a long time.
Solid company.
Yeah, I don't know why our internet in here is so slow. That's really disconcerting considering we're supposed to be right in the heart of the financial district. And oh, yeah, here it comes. Ding, 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 ding. There's the Organogram chart. Now, look at that. Again, back at just after Christmas, you could have bought this stock for $4.65, and it's heading towards a double. So this is going to be one of the great performers of 2019, I feel. And yeah, that's going to be fun. Going to be a fun one. Anyways, so we have a new device in the house, and it's called the FluroTech CompleteTest, and it measures spectroscopically. I'm going to have to get good at saying that. Spectroscopic technology measures photonic responses to a reagent to determine the precise THC, A, and CBD, A content down to a billionth part, 1 part per billion.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, so check this little segment out.
This is our first flagship device, the CompleteTest, and it's all about testing CBDA, THCA potency of the cannabis plant, as well as presence of contaminants, heavy metals, such as mercury, lead, and cadmium. Licensed producers is our main target for this for a multitude of reasons. One, you're able to optimize your crop, and two, a grower will be able to see how potent their grow is and the percentage of CBDA within their cannabis plant.
A scientist at the University of Calgary named Dr. Prenner has been developing the technology over the last 8 to 10 years, and it's only been within the last 3 years that we've repurposed it for the cannabis industry. The test is a fluorometric assay. It uses fluorescence, so there's a dye that binds to the analyte that we're trying to measure, either it being the cannabinoids or the heavy metals. When bound, the light coming into the sample excites the dye, which releases a photon, and we measure the light coming out of the sample using a detector to quantify either the cannabinoids or heavy metals we're trying to measure. So the test consists of an extraction phase. So we grind the plant material using a mortar and pestle, and then we weigh out 100 milligrams into a tube. So it's a very small quantity. It's 1/10 of a gram. We add our extraction solution to that and then shake the tube for 5 or 10 minutes to extract either the cannabinoids or heavy metals, whichever we're trying to measure. That extract is then added to the reagents kits, which are put into the machine and measured. The results are reported on a tablet, and the tablet also provides step-by-step instructions to guide the user through the testing protocol. To use the device, you don't require any type of technical training. We provide user manuals, we have tutorials online, and we deliver training when we deliver the device. So anybody can learn how to do the testing, and you'll be an expert by the time we leave.
We've achieved our THCA concentration here, and we're ready to go. Save the results onto the app and onto the next test, export it. This device is special in many ways. From a crop optimization standpoint, you're able to test anywhere throughout the growth cycle and the growth stages, and you're able to nail down the peak potency periods and harvest time, as well as from a heavy metal standpoint, you're able to test for contaminants, so you know if a product is or if a cannabis plant is contaminated, you scrap the batch and you start over. So cost and crop optimization are great benefits of this device.
I'm joined now by Trevor MacMillan. He's the Director of Scientific and Business Development with FluroTech. Trevor, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Trevor, you just delivered a machine to me that is, by any stretch of the imagination, a miracle, a marvel, a wonder. It tests for cannabinoids and heavy metals in cannabis products down to parts per billion. And give me an overview of the science behind it and how you guys came up with this idea.
Okay. The technology originated with Dr. Prenner. He's a professor at the University of Calgary, and he's been developing this over the last several years, and the technology has now been applied to cannabis testing. So this is a difficult term to say. It's a right.
You can just keep.
So it's a fluorometer.
Fluorometer.
Yep.
Spectroscopic.
I can't say it on camera.
Right. Okay. Fluorometer.
It's a spectral photometric assay that uses fluorescence. So it's a
spectrophotometric assay.
Right.
Interesting. Okay. I think we know what that means.
Okay. Well, I'll describe what it is now. Yeah, despite the label. So it uses fluorescence. Mm-hmm. The equipment uses light. The light goes into the sample. If the analyte, so the cannabinoid or the heavy metal we're trying to measure, is bound to the dye will be excited by the light, and release a photon. So we measure the light coming out of the sample with the detector in the machine, and that allows us to quantify either the cannabinoids or the heavy metals.
Okay, so this device is designed for use by LPs who want to measure the content of their cannabinoids or their cannabis products before it leaves the building or during growth. What's the thinking there?
Okay, yeah, it's designed for licensed producers, cultivators, dispensaries, extractors, or anybody in the cannabis industry interested in measuring heavy metals or cannabinoids.
Is this something that the police might use as a roadside testing device?
No, we are actually developing an alternative technology that will be released in the future to look at human testing. This is an in-process testing device, so cultivators will use it to select mother plants for breeding or cultivation, or they can use it to optimize the cannabinoid concentration in their crops at the time of harvest to maximize the value of their crop.
What other methodologies exist out there for determining the cannabinoid content currently?
Okay, the industry standard right now is HPLC, so that's high pressure liquid chromatography, and it uses a mobile phase that will contain the sample and the cannabinoids. And as the mobile phase moves through a tube with a stationary phase, it separates out those components in the sample into their individual units that are measured by a detector and quantified.
Okay, is that more expensive than your device? Does it take more time? Is it more complicated?
All of the above, yes. HPLC is about $100,000. It's not portable.
$100,000 per test?
To buy the entire instrument.
Oh, okay. Right. And your unit retails for?
The total complete package is valued at $31,000 right now.
Okay, so it makes it 1/3 cheaper.
Right.
How much faster is it?
Well, it's a lot faster. You can get your results in minutes as opposed to days or weeks when you send your samples to the laboratory.
And which heavy metals can you test for?
We can test for mercury, cadmium, and lead.
And in your experience, how frequently are those elements found in cannabis products in Canada?
Currently, they would not be found in any of the medical cannabis sold right now because Health Canada mandates that every licensed producer have their cannabis tested to meet specific quality control specifications before it can be sold. So you wouldn't find heavy metals in your cannabis right now.
So if I'm a LP, I'm going to select mother plants based on the results of which produces higher concentrations of CBDs or THC. That's one use. Are there other applications for this machine? Like, for example, can I test for pesticides, herbicides, fertilizers, other elements?
We're addressing market concerns first, and those are measuring cannabinoids and heavy metals. Future tests that we are developing for the equipment will be aflatoxin testing for molds, and pesticides.
Okay, great. If there was for example, if I wanted to test for other elements on a customized basis, is that something that we could engage with FluroTech and you could say, yes, we can solve that issue if was needed down the road?
Absolutely. Our technology is versatile enough. We can develop probes or dyes to bind to specific chemicals or of interest. So yeah, we could eventually develop specific assays for either cannabinoids or specific terpenes or specific pesticides, things of that nature.
So is there, in terms of the realm of roadside testing, we've heard that there's a Dravec machine currently on the market that has not been able to deliver results sufficiently consistent to obtain convictions in courts of law, and so therefore it's not really that usable. Will your system be better than that?
Absolutely. We're designing it to meet the Drug and Driving Committee's regulations, and so it'll be a saliva-based test that will be able to test either THC, cocaine, or methamphetamine. So we're building it for the law enforcement agency as well as industrial human testing for employers that have safety-sensitive type jobs that they want to ensure that their employees are meeting the criteria for.
Okay, that's great, Trevor. We're going to leave it there for now. Thank you for joining me today.
Okay.
Enjoying the show, everybody? Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Instagram.
It's showtime.
Yeah, there you have it. I don't know if I'm too comfortable with that little roadside testing device there. I mean, boy, that could get you in a whole lot of trouble. You know, we used to drive around high all the time when we were kids. And the only problem...
We did?
Yeah. When we were high? Yeah. I mean, when we were young? But the only problem we ever found in terms of like dangers of driving, I mean, you were either too high to drive that you couldn't even turn on the car. You were just like, no, man, I'm too high to drive. Or you were like, yeah, okay, I'll drive. And you would drive like 50 miles under the speed limit.
Yeah, on the highway. And this idiot in Montreal while I was going to school there, his name's Jonah. And yeah. Fuck you, Jonah. No, he would like, we'd drive around with a few of us in the car and he'd get in the highway and start doing like 60 or something like that.
It's because he was high.
At night.
And he'd think he was going fast.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, so what do you mean, man? I'm not going that fast.
I only did that a couple of times with Jonah, and after that I was like, dude, I'm not getting in your car.
It's 420. What does that mean?
It's universal dope smoking time.
Yeah, where does that term come from? There's the question of the day for people to answer in the little window there. If you know what the origin of the term 420 is, put your answer in the chat window and the winner will get a kiss.
A kiss.
A kiss from Nurse Ricky.
On these lips. Yeah, we can't promise that.
No, not necessarily. No, News Nurse Ricky says, no way over my dead body. So, the FluroTech device, did you happen to give that a whirl yesterday?
I didn't, because I was sort of trying to film it a little bit, but I caught the gist of it, and you know, like I think we said yesterday, it's one of those things that you don't have to be a lab tech for. They can train you how to do it, and then once you know how to do it, you're kind of good.
Yeah.
And they have it set up so that it's sort of like you got your computer testing device and then your little, I don't remember the names for those things, like the pointy jabber that gives you exactly...
The pipette.
That's it. But you don't even need to know the names of those things.
Well, it helps to know the names. There's the pipette.
Yeah. It looks like, yeah, it's very narrow.
Yeah.
You don't want that in your ear. That's no.
Well, no. Unless, of course, you had wax in your ear and you filled it with hot water, just gave it like a whoosh.
Yeah, or a CBD flush.
A CBD flush?
Yeah.
Wow, I wonder what that would do for you. I wonder if that would be like putting acid in your eye.
Yeah.
Okay, so Carl Bowden says that 420 is meant to reference the after-school meetup. 420, famously, was the time that school ended. Carl, I agree with you. That's how I understood the origin to 420 to be, but there's a lot of people who think it's something else.
Well, here's the thing with me. I never remember school ending at 420 ever.
Well, that's
3:45.
Well, that's because as time went on, school hours got shorter and shorter because, you know, the powers that be.
The teachers are like, I don't want to.
No, but when I went to primary school, the end of the day was 4:20.
Well, those primary kids aren't smoking that dope.
No, we didn't smoke dope when we were primary. No.
Yeah. Maybe the teachers were. Actually, Mike Tyson did, though.
Smoked dope when he was in primary school?
11. No, that's even, grade 5. Well, close enough.
Have you been sampling any of the product from the Ontario Cannabis Store?
I haven't, and I keep meaning to because there's, after visiting all these LPs and seeing kind of the best of the best.
Yes.
I've wanted to try some of the stuff. You know, I could name some of the places we went to, but it should be kind of obvious. Like, I mean, going to Organigram and seeing like those massive buds in their sort of reserve brand, I kind of wanted to try that. But the thing is, for me, is they fumbled the legalization day so badly that I was kind of turned off and just wanted to wait a little bit till it was streamlined to the point where I could get it faster.
Interesting. God is trying to communicate with me right now, but I couldn't really understand what he was saying.
You just got to put the finger there, and then everyone knows you have an incoming alert.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
420 San Rafael. I don't understand what that reference is.
Kids from San Rafael, California, are the ones who originated 420, apparently.
When they went to go look for unattended cannabis plants. Okay.
Yeah.
This who? I'm communicating with the netherworld.
Yeah. I had someone ask me a personal question. Did I sell C21 investments? I think I shared that I have some. I did not.
You didn't sell it?
No, it's got a tiny market cap. So it's sort of like, just hang on to it and, you know.
Huh.
But I don't have that much, and I'm sort of like a film guy, so nobody should be trying to copy what I do. I hope they're not. Holy smokes.
Why? Didn't you make a fortune in cannabis investing this year?
No. Well, actually, this year I think I'm up. If you just look at just 2019, maybe 19%.
Oh, okay.
But 2018 was abysmal. Like, I got slaughtered in December. I almost jumped out that there window over there.
Yes, well, we wouldn't want that, Fraser. We'd need a new cameraman.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's see what else we got cooking on this, the last part of today. Oh, I know, Kronos Group. Did you notice that it's just about broke to break $30 again?
It's unbelievable.
$29.20 a share.
This is why I don't understand. So, December, they shielded themselves from most of the downside during all that time. I don't know how, and then really cranked it up, and it's sort of like, I don't know why. Like, do you know why?
Yes.
Okay. Why?
You want me to tell you?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, the reason is because they got that $2.6 billion investment from Altria, who are the owners of Marlboro cigarette brands, among others. And so on that basis, so let's say compared to Canopy Growth, they got half what Canopy got from Constellation.
Sure.
Canopy Growth, with a $5 billion investment from Constellation, achieved a market cap of $20 billion-ish, $19-20 billion. At the time that Canopy, or that Kronos Group received the injection of $2.6 billion from Altria, their market cap was $3.2 billion. So clever people in the market said, well, if this company is worth $19 billion with a $5 billion investment, then shouldn't this company trading at $3.2 billion be worth a lot more with half that? Like, shouldn't it be worth half on a peer group basis, at least $10 billion?
But I always want that to happen with some of my investments, but it just doesn't work that way.
Well, you should have owned Kronos.
Well, I mean, I've been there. Like, I like Kronos. There's nothing wrong with Kronos. I was just sort of like, you know, and it was a delayed reaction. It wasn't as if the financing was announced and then, boom, it took off. It was not much happened right away, and it's been slowly. Yeah. It's not like the same move that Canopy made when they announced it. It was like, I don't know, like I remember trying to log into TD and it crashing because there was so much pandemonium and people trying to trade. Like,
yeah, yeah. Well, so looking at some of these large cap companies here on the Midas Letter Large Cap Index, you know, there's a couple that have really languished. Like, look at Auxly. What happened there? Like, look at Auxly down here at 75 cents.
Where are they located?
Where are they located? They're in Toronto, just down the street here on King Street.
And they grow cannabis? Like, if I went there to shoot a video, what would it look like?
Well, Auxly has a collection of assets, some of whom are LPs, some of whom they own part of. I don't think they own 100% of any LP, though I'm not sure. Chuck Raffici, who's the CEO, has not been on the show since we podcasted with him. He got his nose out of joint when I broke the story about their financing falling apart just before they changed their name from Cannabis Wheaton, which was a bit of hubris. Anyways, well, one day maybe Chuck will come back and tell us about what's going on with Auxly, but it's a storied stock. It's got a real history that
leather-bound books.
Yeah, it's the kind of stock you're going to hear about in bars late at night once guys have had too much to drink and they want to reveal something amazing. And it's got some interesting stories. Look at CanTrust Holdings, up 1.05% today.
Well, they've been doing well the last in recent trading days because they had a big problem getting out of the $9 range, and now they're
look at that chart.
Love it.
What the hell is this thing so slow for today?
It's remember dial-up with all the noises when you.
There it is. There's a nice chart. Like, you notice that in Q1 here, a lot of these stocks, it's like they ate a pill on New Year's Eve and started to get high, and they're still getting high.
Yeah.
So I think the fun has just begun. All right, let's take a look at what we got coming up for the show tomorrow. We have Ravensquest Bio CEO George Robinson will be here. If you haven't been following the Ravensquest Bio story, biopharma story, it's really interesting. Alan Brockstein from 420 Investor is going to join us via Skype, and Sean Cookson is going to do a feature on drones. That's all coming up tomorrow. Now, don't forget to reach over to your little mouse pad there and go hit the little bell on YouTube and subscribe. Go to our website and put your email address into the box that says subscribe at the top of the page, and you're going to start to get some real good investment ideas from us in a coherent and cogent fashion. Anyways, we hope you've enjoyed our show, and we'll see you tomorrow.